Much like many of you, I've been tuned into the news this week focusing on Ukraine and Russia, and it's been a very heavy week. This has been devastating to not only see the coverage on traditional news, but to see these firsthand accounts on TikTok, on Twitter, on YouTube. We are seeing an unprecedented look into war. And I say that as somebody who is sitting in the United States in a comfortable apartment, living my life as I normally would. I can't imagine being in the situation that some of these people are in right now. To have to run, flee your homes, to have to leave everything behind, to escape what is the equivalent of an angry dictator coming to take over your country. That isn't something that I can reasonably imagine. I wanted to start off today's show by sharing some resources of how you can help. With this, I don't know what to do other than to support organizations that can deliver that help. And I think that's the best way to go about this. So this article from NPR shares some fantastic resources that you can support that will help people that are running for their lives establish roots, survive, support their families. I think that is something that is incredibly important. So I'll have this linked down below if you do want to help, and I'll do whatever I can to direct you towards these places where you can support these funds. But on top of that, I also want to say for everybody that's tuning in, it's okay to take time to process. It's a stressful time. The last few years has been traumatic, whether you're directly impacted in something like a war or you are directly impacted by the loss of a loved one. It's a difficult time right now, and I hope that this show that I'm doing brings some joy. I hope that it brings some level of escapism that kind of adds a sense of normalcy into this hectic world that we're kind of living in, because it's a lot to handle, and I hope that the content that I make benefits you and helps you enjoy life. That's always what I aim to do. So I wanted to say that before we dive into the show. I hope you guys enjoyed, and thank you. Welcome to Xhibition, an Xbox podcast, episode number 40. My name is Samuel Adams, and this is a weekly show dedicated entirely to the world of Xbox to bring you everything you need to know to keep you in the loop. So if you enjoy the show and you're new here, hit that subscribe button on YouTube or add the show to your podcast feed of choice and get it delivered each and every Sunday at 10 a.m. Eastern Time. But all of these self-promotion stuff aside, can we talk about how massive this past couple of weeks has been, even outside of the Xbox ecosystem, for gaming in general? Of course, we had the launch of Horizon Forbidden West on the PlayStation 5. For those who might play on that side of the fence, also came to the PlayStation 4, and that's getting some very, very good reviews. But on top of that, this week we saw the launch of Elden Ring. That is doing some numbers. Of course, over on Twitter, everybody is blowing up about this game, but on Metacritic, it's currently sitting at a 97, and on launch day, it was at a 98, took one bit of a drop, but still one of the best rated games in recent memory. And this is a very refreshing change of pace, because I feel like over the course of the past couple of years, we've seen a lot of great games come out, but it's been a while since we've seen one that has just absolutely floored reviewers. And you see people on Twitter talking about bugs here and there. The pacing of the game can feel off depending on your personal taste. But if you are into the Dark Souls experience, this is going to be something that deeply appeals to you. And it's nice to finally get a game that feels polished in so many ways. Now, I will say, this is not a game that I'm ever going to play. I have zero interest in playing Elden Ring. It looks gorgeous. I've been checking out some gameplay over on Twitch. I'm loving what I'm seeing, but it's just not really my kind of experience. But it is nice to see a very high quality AAA game come out and it not have crippling issues at launch. There were some pre-launch performance issues, but a day one patch fixed a lot of that for console players. I'm sure a patch is on the way for PC players as well that are experiencing some issues. But in general, this has been a wonderful launch, and I hope that that kind of sets the precedent for 2022. Even with Horizon Forbidden West on PlayStation 5, there were some launch issues, but by and large, it's been very solid. So hopefully we're getting through that 2019, 2020, 2021 kind of time frame where we had a lot of issues with big games launching, including games like Halo Infinite and some server issues for Forza Horizon 5 as well. But all of that aside, fantastic time to be playing games, and you could even be playing games on Valve's new Steam Deck that launched this week. We'll be talking about the potential for Microsoft to get involved on that system with some Game Pass. Could it be coming to Steam? It looks like Gabe Newell over at Valve could be interested in making that happen. But on top of that, we also have many more stories to dive into, including PlayStation's Game Pass competitor and so much more. So without further ado, let's go ahead and dive into it. It looks like PlayStation is beginning to iron out its plan for PlayStation Spartacus, its codename for the streaming service that is designed to compete with Game Pass. This news comes from Jeff Grubb over at GamesBeat, who says that 3 subscription tiers are currently in the works, going all the way up to $16 per month. Now, it is important to note before we dive into the article, this is all up in the air. Jeff Grubb says that all of these names could change, the prices could change. We'll know in a couple of months whenever there is a PlayStation event held that gives more details. But in short, you have 3 individual tiers: Essential, Extra, and Premium. PlayStation Plus Essential, as you can see by this breakdown, is effectively PlayStation Plus as it exists today. You have the free monthly games, the online multiplayer, the extra little discounts here and there, all for $10 a month. Then PlayStation Plus Extra brings everything in Essential, but also adds a downloadable game catalog, which aligns pretty closely with the downloadable game catalog that's available on PlayStation Now. So it seems like they are bundling that part of that subscription into PlayStation Plus Extra for $13 per month, a $3 increase over the Essential plan. PlayStation Plus Premium is what I would consider to be the closest thing to what we have with Xbox Game Pass Ultimate, which includes everything in Essential, everything in Extra, but on top of that, you also get access to streaming through PlayStation Now, a library of classic games, and game trials for big first-party PlayStation games, and that subscription comes out to $16 per month. The big question, with this setup right here, can it compete with Game Pass? And I think that it gets it closer to competing with Game Pass. I have 2 big questions here, and that is, number 1, what will happen with the PC side of this subscription service? Will this be something that carries over into the PC space? And if I had to guess, the only PC crossover that you'll see here is likely in the streaming side of things, where you can stream PlayStation games through a browser. I don't think the PlayStation is going to make that leap and bring this subscription service in any large capacity to the PC ecosystem. But on top of that, another question is, when it comes to day one releases, will this ever branch out to be anything more than game trials? Because I think this is going to be something similar, and I've seen other reporters agree with this sentiment as well, to what we see with EA Play currently, where, for instance, Grid Legends is a recent release that currently has a 10-hour free trial for EA Play members that also then carries over to Game Pass Ultimate members, since those are all bundled together. So if you have that kind of setup, I don't think that offers the same value proposition as what Microsoft currently has with their day one releases, where with Hellblade 2, I'm going to dive in on day one and play that game. Forza Horizon 5, the full experience ready and waiting for me on day one. Halo Infinite, everything, day one. With this, whenever, for instance, God of War Ragnarok comes out, I'll be able to dive in, play 10 hours of it, supposedly. Let's say it aligns well with the current model that EA Play has. But then after that, I'm still going to have to pay $60 or $70 to get access to this game. Now, for $16 a month, again, this is a much higher price as compared to the $10 per month subscription. You know, if you break that down, it doesn't sound like much month over month, but $6 compounded by 12 months is a lot of money. And so the question is, for a lot of people, do the classic games library and streaming capabilities warrant upgrading from the $13 per month tier? Or even then, does that warrant upgrading from $10 per month? And it really comes down to a person-to-person basis. Does this align with your gaming needs? For me, again, this is moving closer to what I think PlayStation needs to offer to compete with Game Pass, but I would see this as kind of a half step that appeases internal stakeholders within PlayStation while also pushing PlayStation Plus a little bit further for the consumer. Because at the end of the day, Microsoft and PlayStation have very different business models, where Microsoft is going all in on this subscription based service that they've got. They're building the future of the company around that. Phil Spencer has said multiple times it is a sustainable way to sell games, whereas PlayStation is still relying on this $60 or $70 premium game buying on day one model that people are continuing to put money into. So why fix or why fix something that isn't broken? And I think that this is going to again appease those internal stakeholders, because at the end of the day, if you want to pour hundreds of hours into Horizon Forbidden West or God of War Ragnarok or Gran Turismo 7, you still have to buy those games on day one, or at least buy them at some point in the game's life. So that money isn't going anywhere. But also, you can increase engagement with not only PlayStation Plus as a subscription service, but also the technology that has been established for PlayStation Now. The investment that's made in that is now being used more widely. And so, therefore, it's a much more reasonable investment for them to pour more money into. And I think what this is going to equate to is going to be a trial, really. I think this is going to be something that PlayStation marks as dipping their toe in the streaming water to see how their revenue is impacted, to see how these subscriptions fluctuate in any kind of capacity. But ultimately, I think it's a good move. I think this is something that makes PlayStation more competitive in the space, because that's what all of this is really about. It's about bringing more value to the players. And I've said this before on a podcast, and I'll say it again. And I want to preface it by saying, I know that some people don't enjoy the subscription services. I know that some people don't enjoy the month-over-month cost. And to those people, nothing's changing for you. You still have the $60, $70 option. If that's what you want to do, go for it. But for me, as somebody who plays a wide variety of games, I love the discoverability of indies and of big AAA games that I might not have invested into. For instance, I played Edge of Eternity for a few hours earlier this week, a big RPG that I never would have bought, but I'm digging it. I like that kind of discoverability. And so in an ideal world for me, $15 a month goes to Xbox, $15 a month goes to PlayStation. I get access to essentially every big game that's coming out. That sounds great. For $30 a month, that's cheaper than a cable subscription, dude. As somebody who just plays games and rarely watches TV, that's ideal for me. Now, of course, that is not what this new plan is aligning with. This does not include those big releases, but it is something that is inching closer to that kind of reality. And not to talk too much about PlayStation, but you see this beginning to form with the addition of Shadow Warrior 3 in PlayStation Now on day one. Of course, there's a huge blog up right now talking about Shadow Warrior 3 over on the PlayStation blog. But they include here that Shadow Warrior 3 will be on PlayStation Now at launch. And that shows an investment that we haven't seen from PlayStation before. That's something that's significant. They are investing in these big day one AAA third-party releases outside of their first-party catalog that are going to continue adding value to this service. And you see that aligning very well with what Microsoft is doing. You build these partnerships, you get games on this subscription, and you drive subscription revenue. I think the PlayStation is beginning to come on to what Microsoft has been doing. But regardless, I'd never want an Xbox podcast or an Xbox content creator like myself to seem averse to another platform succeeding. I want this industry to continue to grow, and personally, for me, I want a reason to buy a PlayStation 5. I haven't found one yet. That's the biggest issue for me when it comes to dropping $400 or $500 on a console. I don't have a reason to buy a PlayStation 5. Horizon Forbidden West is the closest that they've gotten so far for me, but for Spider-Man Miles Morales, I'm all right. For any of these other big games that have come out, I'm okay so far. I don't need to play any of these. I can wait till they come to PC, or I can wait till they go multi-platform, like Deathloop, for instance, that should be going multi-platform in the next few months, or within a year or so. But I want that big PlayStation 5 exclusive or the big PlayStation 5 subscription service that pushes me over the edge and makes me say, yes, I am ready. And I think that a subscription service like this is a halfway point, not really doing it for me fully, but it is something that improves on their current offering, and that's something that deeply needs to be done. So kudos to Microsoft for pushing the industry forward, and kudos to PlayStation for finally beginning to pick up some slack and get this subscription service rolling. Looking forward to more news in the months ahead. Fans of Fallout New Vegas got some very good news this week because it seems that a sequel might be on the way. It is reportedly in very early talks at Microsoft, according to Jeff Grubb over on his Grubb Snacks podcast live on YouTube, where he said that Obsidian could create a sequel to the classic RPG now that it's under the same roof as the license holder Bethesda. He said, quote, "This is very early, but people have begun to have talks and say these words and sentences, and those words are Obsidian and New Vegas 2. We're talking years and years away. There is at least an interest in conversations happening about making something like that actually a reality," end quote. This is what I was hoping to see from the Microsoft acquisition. This is the kind of dream project that people want to make a reality. Often in the gaming industry, as licenses change hands and as companies change hands these days, you see a lot of the projects that people want to happen just simply become improbable because there's no way that these two companies are going to work together again because of legal boundaries. And I think that whenever you have this consolidation, like we've seen with Microsoft, you have creative people under the same roof that now have access to a wider library of assets to experiment with and to build new worlds in. I've seen a lot of talk about this one over on social media, and one of the biggest sentiments that I also feel is that I would love to see Fallout branch out of New Vegas specifically, and I think that New Vegas 2 is just being thrown around as kind of this callback to what New Vegas is as its own experience. I think what this can really be interpreted as is Obsidian is making a new Fallout game, which will likely be something entirely new outside of that world they created years ago. But Fallout New Vegas is very, very popular. It's one of the most beloved entries in the entire franchise, and it had a unique feel that I think that Obsidian can really deliver on. And so, of course, right now they're working on the Outer Worlds 2. Very exciting stuff right there. But hopefully in the years ahead, as they wrap up that project, get that one out the door, they can start looking forward and saying, we have a new set of cards on the table. What can we make? And I think this is going to be a very, very powerful hand that they have to play. So looking forward to hearing more. Of course, as always, I will keep you guys in the loop. But again, very early, so don't expect this one in 2023 or 2024, probably like a 2027 kind of situation here, if it even happens at all. Still cool to dream, though. If you're someone who gets tired of these annualized Call of Duty releases, 2023 could be your year because a new report suggests that next year's game has been pushed to 2024. You see the report here from IGN. Many people across the industry picked this story up, but Activision has said, quote, "We have an exciting slate of premium and free-to-play Call of Duty experiences for this year, next year, and beyond. Reports of anything otherwise are incorrect. We look forward to sharing more details when the time is right," end quote. The original story is as follows. According to Bloomberg, sources familiar with the situation, executives in charge of the franchise have made the decision early after a recent entry in the series failed to meet expectations, leading them to believe that Call of Duty's current annual cadence of releases was too rapid. The decision is reportedly unrelated to the recent Microsoft purchase of the publisher, and the 2022 Call of Duty release is still on track. Of course, they go on to talk more about how Call of Duty Vanguard failed to meet fan expectations, but this news all kind of stems from a town hall where they filled all of these companies in on what the plan was for next year's Call of Duty. And this is something that when I saw it personally, I was elated that this was even part of the conversation. And I think that although it might not directly be related to the Microsoft acquisition of Activision Blizzard, I think that certainly does kind of calm concerns that this could negatively impact Activision Blizzard as a whole. Now, needless to say, company finances will feel a hit from this because while people like me might not like annualized Call of Duty releases, there are millions and millions and millions of players who do not care. They just want the next big game within the next year. We have these people that just play Madden, that just play Call of Duty, that just play Fortnite, and they keep those games circulating. And so they want to keep that content fresh. And it makes perfect sense. But when it comes to delivering a better, more high quality game, I want games that are like Modern Warfare 2019, that are released when they're ready, because Modern Warfare 2019 was a wonderful game. It was the first time that I really had fun with the Call of Duty in many, many years. It kind of was a callback to those Modern Warfare 2 days, where that was just a very, very good game. But this would be monumental, because this would be the first time in 18 years that a Call of Duty game was not released on an annualized release. That tradition goes all the way back to Call of Duty 2. We're talking about a very long time. But I think that setting this expectation of a game releasing when it's ready, specifically for a big game like Call of Duty, not only increases anticipation, but it also gives you more time to give more love to the existing game. I mean, if you look at Call of Duty Vanguard, for example, they finally gotten the game to where it's in an okay spot. The bugs have been patched out, some more content is coming. But ultimately, when you look at what has been created right now, it only has a real shelf life of the next roughly 8 months or so, because it's pretty safe to expect Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2 to come out sometime in October or November of this year. And so when you look at the game that was released less than a year ago, it's going to continue seeing support. For instance, you can dive on and play some Call of Duty Black Ops Cold War right now and the servers are filled. But I would love to potentially be in a world where Call of Duty Black Ops Cold War is still the game that we're playing right now, is still the main Call of Duty, where we've gotten more maps, where we've potentially, I don't know, gotten more story content. Could we maybe get some more story DLC there? You pay more attention to these games, give them the love that they deserve, pour some more passion, some more resources into them, and stop jumping around so much. It's almost like I'm getting whiplash from going from one era to another. We don't need these annualized releases anymore, because we can put out updates. We can give games the love they need. And while it's not a one-to-one comparison, I look at what Nintendo is doing with Mario Kart 8 Deluxe, where, years and years later, the game has been ported to Nintendo Switch, and now we're getting DLC with, I think, 48 tracks or something insane like that. To be able to see all of that love, to be able to bring classic experiences into Mario Kart 8, to keep it going as kind of like a platform, I think that's where Call of Duty should go. Now, I don't think that it's ever going to be the platform idea that a lot of people have, but I would love to see where Call of Duty is something that continues to evolve year over year, rather than something that has to have a clean slate every single October or November. Regardless, it seems like that's happening in 2023. Once again, the 2022 game is not going anywhere. That seems to be right on track for a release this year, and it should be pretty good, because this is a brand new game built on another brand new engine after just having a new engine a few years ago. But it should be a very good looking game, because I believe this could be the only first next gen Call of Duty we get on the Xbox Series X and PlayStation 5. No last gen support if reports are to be believed. So we'll see what happens. Very exciting times for Call of Duty fans, if I do have to say so. As I mentioned earlier, this has been a huge week, not only because of Elden Ring, but also because of the release of the Steam Deck. We saw the critics across the industry begin to share their thoughts on this piece of hardware, and generally, it's well received. The battery life seems to be the only major complaint that many people have, and of course, it's not going to give you the performance of an RTX 3080 Ti or anything like that with an i9 core processor. We're talking about something that is designed to fit into a backpack. One of the biggest complaints is that the battery life is roughly about 3 hours, but if you're close to a charger or you're just taking it to play a game during lunch, seems to be a good fit. But it also is a first generation device. So Gen 2, Gen 3, if they so choose to make them, will, needless to say, get much, much better. But the interesting story that caught my eye that's relevant to this podcast is that Valve says it's willing to help Microsoft bring PC Game Pass to Steam. This news is reported on over by Andy Robinson at VGC, who writes, Steam owner Valve has said it's willing to help Microsoft bring PC Game Pass to its platform. Currently, Game Pass subscribers on PC need to use a Microsoft app in order to access their game library, but Valve CEO Gabe Newell has now indicated to PC Gamer that there is nothing blocking the subscription service coming to Steam. He also suggested that Valve would not be interested in launching its own Game Pass style subscription service. Quote, I don't think it's something that we think we need to do ourselves, building a subscription service at this time. But for their customers, it's clearly a popular option, and we'd be more than happy to work with them to get that on Steam. We've talked to people there quite a bit about that topic. If your customers want it, then you should figure out how to make it happen. That's where we're at. That's pretty much where the story ends. We'll go ahead and jump back up to the top. But the door is open, effectively. And I've seen videos circulating on Twitter of Halo 3 running on the Steam Deck. Elden Ring runs on the Steam Deck. You see all of these big games running. And for me, we talk about Microsoft bringing cloud to handheld devices, and you can use Razer attachments to make your phone into somewhat of a handheld gaming device. When I look at the Steam Deck, I want this to be the Microsoft Xbox handheld that never was. I want this to be something where I can play Halo, I can play Forza on the go, and you can already do that. But to be able to bake that and attach the PC Game Pass subscription service to it, that's much more appealing for someone like me. Now, it is worth mentioning, this thing is not cheap. We're talking about the price of like $650 or so if you want to get one of the setups that I saw over on Twitter. And even then, we're talking about systems that are shipping Q2 2022 or so. There are definitely some production issues they are running into. But all of those logistical issues aside, this is shaping up to be a very, very popular handheld. But Valve doesn't have a good track record when it comes to hardware. You see a lot of devices like the Steam controller that had the touchpads versus analog sticks kind of come and go, and they were selling for $5 a pop. You've also seen the various Valve TV attachments where you can bring and stream your PC into your living room. Those have kind of come and gone. And I think that when I look at Steam Deck, the biggest concern that I have is that Valve isn't committed to this device in the long term, that it will eventually be a relic where you pick it up and you think, man, I can play games on this, but I wish I would have gotten a Gen 2 or a Gen 3. And one of the biggest issues with PC gaming is that if you want the best of the best, you have to continue iterating at a pretty solid click because I don't think anyone really wants a PC gaming handheld where you play games that are the quality of a Nintendo Switch Lite. If you want PC gaming on the go, it has to bring a higher quality. And I think that's something that needs to be considered whenever you're talking about future releases. But I would love for this to be a success because I think that there's definitely a market for it, especially as the Nintendo Switch continues to sell very, very well. As you can see on the shelf behind me, I picked up a Nintendo Switch OLED about a week ago or so. I've been playing Pokemon Legends Arceus, and I've been playing some Tetris Effect Connected. I love that thing, and I would love for it to be more powerful than it is, and the Steam Deck seems to be the answer to that in some capacity. Make no mistake, big boy though, very big boy. But exciting to see some innovation. I think that's one of the biggest elements that I like about this situation is that it's pushing the limits beyond sitting at a computer with a mouse and keyboard. This makes Steam much more versatile, and I would love to see them continue to experiment in this space, in this capacity. But when it comes to extending the value of Game Pass, I couldn't think of a better solution, and clearly Gabe Newell is a pretty open-minded guy that's ready to work with Microsoft, so hopefully we'll see something happen. If you're a fan of streaming or creating content and you want the stream on Twitch, it's now easier than ever before with Xbox because the feature is now baked back directly into the Xbox dashboard. This is something that was taken away a couple of years ago, but now the feature has come back and you can now stream your gameplay and your webcam directly to your Twitch channel on the Xbox Series X, S, and on the Xbox One. This news comes from the Xbox Wire with Brenna Duffett, a software engineer on the Xbox Platform Services team, saying, quote, "With everything going on in the world, it's more important than ever that we stay connected with our friends, families, and communities. We've heard your feedback and are excited to bring back this fan-favorite feature, re-engineered and better than ever. Starting today, Xbox and Twitch are teaming up to make live streaming from your Xbox easier than ever. You can now access Twitch directly from the Xbox Guide and manage your setup in a few simple steps." It's easy to get started from the Xbox guide. You'll just navigate to the Capture and Share tab and select live streaming. Then you'll link your Twitch account by scanning a QR code, and you can add a couple of specifications there if you would like and choose Go Live Now. In short, super easy, but on top of that, it's also worth mentioning here you can change your bitrate all the way up to 1080-60, which is fantastic, and on top of that, you can add your webcam to the setup as well, which is able to be done in just a couple of clicks. For me, I wanted to check out this feature, so I grabbed my Logitech C920, went into my living room, and I plugged it directly into the Xbox, and literally I could have gone live in just a couple of seconds. For me, streaming has kind of taken a back seat. I don't have the time to invest in it. I play in small chunks at this point in my life, and I don't really have time to do 3-4 hour gaming sessions or so. But for content creators or for those that want to connect with a community, this is a fantastic option. And it is something that I will consider in the future, just because it's nice to not have to sit at a desk with a high-powered gaming PC having to stream gameplay in a way that's not really comfortable for me. I used to stream a ton. I used to stream right here at this desk, but it became a little bit less comfortable whenever I moved into my bigger apartment. I got a nice couch, and I sit here and I just kind of lay around, play some Death's Door, play some Halo Infinite. It's much more comfortable in my living room. And so to be able to just grab a webcam, no gaming PC required, and stream directly to my Twitch channel, it makes it much more interesting for me to entertain the idea once again. So if you're a podcaster or anything of that sort and you want to go ahead and stream some gameplay, go for it. The feature is out now. You can use your mic, webcam, all of that good stuff baked right into the Xbox dashboard. Once again, I'm back with the monthly obligatory discussion around Xbox games with gold, because this month with $89.96 in value and 4,000 in gamer score, we've got a collection of games you'll probably never play. Now, I will say, The Flame and the Flood, very solid little indie game. Highly recommend checking that one out. But outside of that, we've got Street Power Soccer, Sacred 2 Fallen Angel, and SpongeBob SquarePants Truth or Square. Here's my suggestion, once again. Fold Xbox Live into Game Pass. And if the monetary side of this situation is a little bit cumbersome for Microsoft, maybe you could take, for instance, somebody that has 6 months of Xbox Live Gold, then honor it with 3 months of Xbox Game Pass. That seems kind of fair considering the value that's being shared. Or Microsoft, if you want to eat this cost, just go ahead and grandfather everyone in and upgrade everybody to Game Pass for the existing term of their existing subscription. Because this is just, again, degrading the value of the Xbox name, because whenever you have PlayStation Plus coming out of the gate with Ghost Runner on their Ghost Runner, my bad. Whenever you have Ghost Runner headlining their PlayStation Plus lineup for the month alongside some very other impressive little games, that's just not a good look. Like, I look at Ghost Runner and then I look over here and I see SpongeBob SquarePants Truth or Square. Come on. But regardless, these are your games you can get. Some of them are available throughout the month of March. Street Power Soccer is available until April the 15th, so go ahead, check these out. If you want to at least add them to your library, you might as well. I will say that Sacred 2 Fallen Angel, cool-looking ARPG, kind of interested in that one. The Flame and the Flood, I played it for a couple of hours. I think it was on Game Pass a few years ago. Not one that really tickled my itch, but hey, it could do that for yours. Still just... why do we have this anymore? Why? To round out today's show, some congratulations are in order for, first, the team at 343 for Halo Infinite, which is the online game of the year. They took home the gold at the DICE Awards, and it is a very well-deserved award because Halo Infinite is still very good. I played it earlier this week, digging it through and through. Not a perfect game, but a very good game that certainly does deserve this award. And then, of course, as we discussed earlier in the month, Phil Spencer has been honored with the Lifetime Achievement Award at the 25th Annual DICE Awards. And when you look back, as I said on a couple of shows previously, Phil Spencer has really turned the ship around for Xbox. We're talking about a brand that was about to be dissolved a couple of years ago, and now we have it becoming a face that is pushing the industry forward. You know, we look at what PlayStation's doing with Spartacus, as we discussed. We look at these big AAA games that are being created, the acquisitions that we PC. Phil Spencer is setting the tone for the next generation of gamers, and I think that certainly is worth honoring. So congratulations to Phil. Very well deserved and fantastic work throughout the years. But that wraps up this week's episode of Xhibition, an Xbox podcast. If you enjoy the show and you like what you see, hit that subscribe button down below. And of course, you can tune in each and every weekend, Sundays at 10 a.m. Eastern Time, to get the lowdown on everything happening in the world of Xbox. But until next time, you guys have a fantastic rest of your week. I'll talk to you soon, and keep on playing.